Hispanic men. It wasn't Native American men, because the Lord said what?
Envy thou not the oppressor.
The Lord does not want you to envy thy oppressor. Our oppressor is the greatest drug dealer. He's the best drug dealer there is. He's in charge of all the drugs.
Right.
That's how all the drugs got into Richmond. Right. That's how all the drugs got into Portsmouth. That's how all the drugs got into Emporia,
right.
into Petersburg. Right. That's how all the drugs got there. Because in El Salvador, and in Cuba, and in Mexico, and in Costa Rica, and in Puerto Rico, and in the Dominican Republic. That's how all the drugs got there. Hispanic men. It wasn't Native American men, because the Lord said what?
Envy thou not the oppressor.
The Lord does not want you to envy thy oppressor. Our oppressor is the greatest drug dealer. He's the best drug dealer there is. He's in charge of all the drugs.
Right.
That's how all the drugs got into Richmond. Right. That's how all the drugs got into Portsmouth. That's how all the drugs got into Emporia, right. into Petersburg. Right. That's how all the drugs got there. Because in El Salvador, and in Cuba, and in Mexico, and in Costa Rica, and in Puerto Rico, and in the Dominican Republic. That's how all the drugs got there. You're wondering why the Native Indians on the reservations are coked up and drunk out of their mind? Our oppressor pushed drugs on those reservations.
Right.
Our oppressor is the drug dealer, not us. The only reason why we became the drug dealers that we are, because we followed after our oppressor.
Right.
We chose his ways. We envied our oppressor because it's glorified. I know it's all over TV. It's all over social media.
Right.
It's all on TV. It's all over the radio. Sell the dope, push the coke, move in weight, be the best drug dealer you can be. Future talking about Molly's and Percocets. I understand. But the Lord said to do what?
Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways.
Like the Lord wanted us to choose none of his ways. Absolutely none of it. One of his ways is voting. You understand? I know blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, when it comes to voting, we think voting is going to fix the conditions of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. We think it's going to fix the conditions of Richmond. We think voting is going to fix the conditions of Petersburg, of Portsmouth, of Norfolk, and Newport News, and every ghetto in America. Voting is not going to fix that. That may work for your oppressor. That may work for Jonathan. That may work for Skylar. That may look look good, and it may work for Nathaniel. You understand? But not us. The Lord said to us not to vote. Voting is not going to fix our problems. We never needed a vote to build up the black community. Before integration, before Martin Luther King, we didn't need voting to fix our problems. We came together. We put our money together, our minds together, and we built up successful black cities, and successful black communities, and successful black neighborhoods. We didn't need Joe Biden's vote. You understand? We didn't need Joe Biden's leadership. We didn't need the Republican Party. We didn't need the Democratic Party. All we needed was each other.
That's right.
That's what the Lord wants us to understand. That's why the Lord said what?
Envy thou not the oppressor.
Like, that's why the Lord is saying, envy not thy oppressor. The Lord wants us to realize we don't need voting. We need each other. We need these laws, statutes, and commandments. We need to come together and band together and come back and serve the Lord. That's the only way we're going to fix these conditions in the black, Hispanic, and Native American community. There is no other way. But when we choose our oppressors' ways, and we join ourselves to America, that's what destroys us. That's what destroyed Mexico. That's what destroyed Haiti. That's what destroyed the DR. That's what destroyed Puerto Rico. That's what destroyed Cuba. That's what destroyed El Salvador. Our countries and our cities and our neighborhoods that we live in are destroyed because we envied our oppressor, and the Lord said choose none of his ways. That's what the Lord is saying. Give me John chapter 8 verse 44, man. We got to be careful who we join ourselves to. The Lord does not want us to identify with America.
That's right.
The Lord does not want us to identify as a Democrat. The Lord does not want us to identify as a Republican. The Lord does not want to identify us as a great American citizen, man. Like, we have an identity of our own. We have an identity that the Lord gave us. We are not to identify with America. We're not to identify with these Republican parties and the Democratic Party. The Lord wants you to identify as an Israelite. The Lord wants you to identify as a Jew from the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, the tribe of Levi, the tribe of Gad, the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Issachar, the tribe of Naphtali, the tribe, you understand?
Right.
The tribe of Manasseh. That's who the Lord wants us to identify as.
Right.
Not this Democratic Party, not this Republican Party, not like some homosexual,
Right.
not some lesbian, you
Yes,
understand?
right.
The Lord does not want us to identify with America. To identify with America, you damn near have to be a homosexual to identify with America. Give me John chapter 8 verse 44. You understand? John chapter 8 verse 44. To identify with America, meaning you are taking the customs and the traditions and the culture of America.
That's
like
right.
that is an identity. An identity shows an heritage. An identity, to identify as something, meaning you come from somewhere.
Right.
You understand? And because blacks and Latinos, we lost our identity, now we're searching for one. Now we're trying to realize, who are we? Who are we supposed to be? At first, because of our religious leaders, we identified with Africa. You understand?
Right.
But we're not African whatsoever.
That's right.
You understand? I understand Jesse Jackson in the 80s and Al Sharpton in the 80s to the 90s told you Afro-Latino, Afro-American. I think Afro-Latino is kind of new. But African-American, you understand?
Right.
But that's not who we are. We don't come from Africa. We're not those people. You understand? You got John chapter 8 verse 44.
Come on.
Go ahead.
This is the book of John, chapter 8, verse 44. Ye are of your father, the devil.
Now these words are in red. Alright? That means these words are coming from Christ. This is coming from the King himself. You understand? Christ is a black man. His name is Yahushua Mashiach in the Hebrew. You understand?
Right.
Christ is the king of so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, man. The same blood that ran through Christ ran through the Mexicans,
That's right.
ran through the Haitians,
Right.
runs through the El Salvadorians,
Right.
runs through the Costa Ricans. Who would have known that the Mexicans are related to Christ?
Right.
Who would have known that the Costa Ricans are related to Christ?
Right.
Not our oppressor. You see this image right here? This is not Christ. You
Right.
understand? Do not identify with this image right here. When we identify with this image, we become the greatest, best murderers ever. We become the pedophiles. We become the molesters. We become the drug dealers. We become the thieves when we identify with this image right here. Through this image right here, white Jesus Christ, Caesar Borgia, the second son of Pope Alexander VI of Rome, who killed his father, had sex with his sister,
Right.
and Leonardo da Vinci's homosexual lover.
Right.
That's who this image is.
Right.
This is who we ended up identifying with when we joined ourselves to America.
Right.
When we joined ourselves to our oppressor. That's why if you are Mexican, you are not to identify with this. Don't be a Catholic if you're Mexican.
Right.
If you're Mexican, don't be a Catholic. Don't be a Christian. Don't identify as this image right here. But if you come from El Salvador, if you come from Costa Rica, if you come from Mexico, if you come from Puerto Rico, if you come from the DR, identify with these tribes right here. Identify with the Yahushua image right there. Because that same blood runs through your veins, you understand? That's who you are. The Lord said what?
Ye are of your father, the devil.
Christ is saying, ye are of your father the devil, man. Like there's a man on the earth that is the devil. You understand? Our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of.
That's right.
And the Lord does not want you to be like the devil.
Right.
The Lord does not want us to be like our oppressor.